Greetings, everyone. Welcome to COS Today. So glad to have you all with us this evening and Happy New Year. You might notice right off the bat that I'm by myself tonight. So my co-host Ken Kashuba, I always pronounce his name incorrectly. Uh, he wanted me to tell you that he was sent on an FBI assignment in Texas, but that's not the truth. We'd be lying if we said that. Uh, he has a business and he was taken away to a special thing that occurred to him. So he is taking care of business. So Ken won't be with us tonight, I expect, unless he would perhaps maybe sign on here, but I'm not counting on it. So anyway, I want to tell you we do have some new things for 2026, and we're going to introduce you to a few of them tonight, but we're holding the rest of them off until next week, where we will be introducing some new features to you that we have worked up for you for 2026. But anyway, let's get it off here. We're starting here in 2026, saving the country with Convention of States, and that's what we're going to be doing. That's our tagline for 2026: saving the country with Convention of States. Now tonight, on this broadcast, let me give you a brief overview of what we're going to be talking about tonight in the various segments that we have planned for you. Of course, fraud seems to be a very, very hot topic right now in our country. Obviously, a lot of fraud being discovered going on all around. We're going to also be talking about the situation in Minnesota with Governor Walz. Okay. Then we're going to be talking a bit about Mamdani, the new mayor in New York City, and something that many of us probably don't know about, and that's the new right to life legislation in Puerto Rico that took effect January 1. Then we also have a good presentation this evening on Islam in America, and also a presentation on socialism in America. So a lot of good stuff that we're going to be talking about tonight, and I want to get right to it. So our first segment is going to be what we call the In Focus segment. And let me bring on my guest for this evening's In Focus. There's Mr. David Punt. Hi, David.
How you doing, Dale?
Good. State Director of Minnesota. I told him I know it's awful quiet in his state, so I was glad that he could join us this evening. Right?
Incredibly peaceful.
Yes,
hardly anything happens.
Nothing happening in Minnesota. Nothing
Minnesota, nice. In fact, it was 36 degrees today. It's a beautiful day.
Well, it is unusually warm here too. Yes. And Miss Debbie Stewart. Hi, Debbie.
Hi. How are you?
Good. Glad to have you this evening.
Glad to be here.
And Mr. Brett Sturley from the state of Missouri. Hello, Brett.
Hello, Dale. How are you this evening? Thanks for having me on here.
Good. Well, Happy New Year to all of you, and glad you could be joining us again. I know you've all been on this segment before in 2025, so you kind of know what the routine is here. But so let's chat here about what's on your mind. What's got your focus? What are you focusing on in the news in our world right now? And Debbie, I think you've got one that probably most of us are not aware of. So why don't you lead off here this evening?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I had to do a little digging for this. This isn't on the major headline news on TV, but we've had so much debate over pro-life, pro-abortion, and what different states are doing. But Puerto Rico, just recently at the end of December, I think it was December 21st, they signed legislation, and the governor, who's a Catholic governor, signed it into law that they are recognizing an unborn child from the day of conception all the way through as a person.
From the day of conception.
On the day of conception.
Really? Really?
Yes. And so they can legally consider their unborn child an heir. And now all the laws will be also subject to unborn. So if a pregnant woman is in a car accident and the baby dies, it is first-degree murder. So, that child, that unborn child, is going to be treated like every other person that is outside of the womb.
Now, is Puerto Rico? I don't know. They're a territory, right?
Territory, yeah.
Are they kind of considered a liberal territory or conservative?
You know, that's a really great idea. They have a Catholic governor, so I'm guessing she's more conservative. But I would say with the legislation there to pass this law, there has to be some conservative, but I don't know about the constituents there.
That's what I'm thinking, and for some reason, in my mind, that has not been the case in the past. I don't know. David, Brett, do you guys have any thought on that?
I'm sorry, I missed the question. Puerto Rico is a territory.
Yes. Is it considered a liberal or conservative?
I would, I don't know. I would say it was liberal, but I don't know that. I'm not sure what I base that on.
Yeah.
I think it has a representative in Congress, a non-voting member in Congress that who is a Democrat, and I think it has been a Democrat for quite some time. And so, I would say that it's a Democrat stronghold because statehood for Puerto Rico and statehood for Washington D.C. have been two initiatives that the Democrat Party have pushed for quite some time, and I'm sure that they would not do that if that was friendly to Republicans.
The dominant party in Puerto Rico is the New Progressive Party, and it has 39% of the vote. Popular Democratic Party has 34%, and so there are more Democrats in the party. I'm not even sure if there's an Independence Party, but I don't see any representation for Republicans. But that's not to say that there are no conservatives.
Well, the reason I asked the question is that this legislation that Debbie's just talking about, to me, that's more on the conservative side, and it surprises me, quite honestly. It surprises me that they're doing that. But
I think that one of the things that I remember from the halcyon days when I was running around, it was going to be an elected something or other, is that I found when I talked to people, most of them were as conservative as I was. I mean, they paid their bills on time. They worked. They had kept a steady job. They never got fired. I mean, it's like, and there I broke the mold. But I mean, they were good, solid, conservative Christian people that lived up here in northern Minnesota. And somehow they said, "Well, Grandpa voted Democrat. I think I will too."
Yeah.
So I think basically people are conservative by nature. I think that down deep, more people are conservative. The Puerto Rican decision makes a whole bunch of sense, and especially with the Roe v. Wade decision. That makes all kinds of logical sense, especially when you believe that life starts with conception. And if you believe into that, and Puerto Rico is very Catholic, and most of the people there, I would say, would be Catholic and believe that life begins at conception. So I guess it's not that big of a leap. Maybe it'll catch on. You think? You think? Debbie, you think?
Yep.
So Debbie, is abortion allowed? Are there exceptions or anything like that in this legislation? Do you know?
I do not know. I did not dig down into that much of it. I just saw it as a headline and thought, oh, wow, that's really amazing because we've had so much difficulty in this country with this. And now it's at this level. And so I thought that it was interesting that they're kind of leading the way that, hey, it's okay to call, because that changes, when you look into the Constitution, that was the debate. Is that baby a person? were they talking about the mother or the baby when they said we were talking about life?
Mm-hmm.
And so, so I just feel like, and I'm really hoping, I will begin praying that this will be the start of something good here in our country.
I just checked it out I just typed in abortion in Puerto Rico, and it's technically prohibited on request, although it's de facto allowed without a clear limit. And it's allowed for mother or life of the mother, fetal defects, and if the fetus would not be viable.
Oh,
So,
okay. All right.
So it's
we have some of that. We have that's a big issue here in Missouri. Missouri went from one of the most pro-life states to where we had a heartbeat bill and protections on the unborn babies. We were one of the most pro-life states in the country to last year by an initiative petition that was introduced by outside groups. Basically, we have the same abortion laws here in the state of Missouri as what they have in North Korea now. And it's all the way up to, if there's a toenail still in the birth canal, the baby can be aborted. And I mean, it's just absolutely just terrible. So that's one thing that's an issue that's going to be on our ballot again this next year. The Missouri legislature passed House Joint Resolution number 73, and it is going to prohibit abortion after 12 weeks after conception. And it does have exceptions right now for rape, incest, and life of the mother and fetal viability. And that has gotten has kind of caused a little bit of a rift between those who wish to abolish all abortions, which I'm 100% agree with. That's the right goal. And to those who are supporting this, the strategy is, and the idea is that, and the abolitionists do have the right goal of abolishing abortion. And I think every single person who supports this is going to be Amendment 3 on our ballot. Everyone who supports Amendment 3 has that goal. But it's what is politically viable here right now. This is going to be able to, Amendment 3, when it passes, will abolish 95% of all abortions in the state of Missouri. The intent is, from that point, at least what my thinking is, and some of the strategy here in the state, is then we can litigate personhood, which is exactly what needs to happen, kind of like what Puerto Rico has, and say, okay, look, instead of setting some kind of arbitrary point in the gestation period of a human life, the only thing that scientifically makes sense is that there's a life begins at conception, when there's egg fertilization and cell division. And whenever we can litigate that through and kind of, I guess, litigate and then take that through the court system to where personhood is defined from that point, and every human life has constitutionally protected rights and due process rights from that point in time, then at that point, that's whenever you can kneecap abortion policy throughout the whole entire country and say, no, this is a U.S. constitutional matter, and that every single, because there's no other.
Debbie, do you see what you started here? Do you see what you started here? I don't know how I'm going to ever get him to stop here.
Just Brett mysteriously drops off the podcast for somehow. Don't know what happened. It's technical problem. But no, I think that is the thing, and this is a big deal, and this is a big knock against the right to life movement, because the goal was always overturn Roe v. Wade, and then okay, well now we overturned it. Okay, well now what? Well, the left had ideas. They had plans to advance abortion.
I wanted to do a little special on abortion in our country now, and now Debbie's kind of rekindled the thought of doing this. Have, have have you all seen a map of the United States and the states grouped by various abortion laws that they've adopted since Roe versus Wade was overturned? Pockets of states. There's all sorts of different legislation out there, all the way from absolutely no abortion to everything up to almost post-birth in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting to see how and maybe I'll do that, but the map that I saw was very interesting, color-coded map of all the states that were in this group, states that were in this, and so forth. So it's very, very interesting. So anyway, good topic, Debbie.
Wow.
It was just a short article.
It was very short. Okay.
Okay. Minnesota at one time had one of those laws, and I can't remember the name of the law or even the name of the term, but the subject is the child that lives through an abortion, and it guaranteed treatment by a physician if a child lived through an abortion. Under this current governor, that bill was banned.
I remember that being an issue. Yes.
Right.
Yes,
that bill was wiped out.
On that note, David, I think you wanted to maybe talk about your governor a bit, didn't you?
How many hours do I have?
No, you're not like Brett. You don't have extended time here.
The other question might be how many hours before his tenure is done.
The bad news is that Timmy Walz will be around as the governor of Minnesota until January 4th of next year. So he's not leaving.
He's got one more year, huh?
He's not leaving. He's not taking off. He's not been arrested. He's not been hauled out in handcuffs. But he has decided to. He announced yesterday. And there were rumors of him being talked to about it yesterday, but he announced today that he was going to have a press conference about 5 or 6 o'clock tonight. And then during the course of the morning, he said, let's move that up to 11 o'clock. And he announced that he was no longer going to run for a third term. Now, there's never been a third term governor in Minnesota.
Right.
None of the governors have ever made it to 3 terms. And Walz was going to try to beat that record. His last election he won by 52%. So it's not that he's overwhelmingly popular, but he thought that he would be able to, run out the clock and keep. There are a lot of Democrats in this state, and a lot of Democrats that vote and look around at the ballot and find the guy with a D behind his name and vote for him no matter what, or her in any case. But the big part of it was in one of the guys that I follow on Facebook. His name is Mitch Berg, and he put the finger on it exactly. He said that what he's heard, or what he's been hearing from people that he talks to, is that the people that really convinced Tim Walz to drop out of the race is the Minnesota Democrat donors. And it's not just Minnesota, it's the rest of the country, because what they see is the Somali fraud program attaching itself to Democrats. Oh. And it's being connected to them specifically. And it's not just Tim, not just he's tired of running. He was talked into it. He was told. I mean, you've all seen Timmy Walz, and you know what he's like. He wasn't going to get out of the race unless somebody chopped off his legs, and even then he'd crawl to the finish line. Not a chance. I mean, that would be the only way. The fraud continues. The Somali fraud continues and goes on. I just saw a news flash across my screen that Trump is going to send 2,000 ICE agents to Minneapolis tomorrow. We are right up to here in illegals and all kinds of stuff. In my other life, I do something called mystery shopping, and I stumbled across a person who had started a business who used to work for the FBI in Minneapolis. And she told me, she said, what Trump needs to do is send ICE into Minneapolis, and as many as he possibly can, because there's lots and lots and lots of illegals. They're all over the place.
2,000 going into just Minneapolis?
Yeah. It's a town of maybe 350,000 people, but there's plenty of surrounding areas.
Yeah.
The whole Minneapolis, St. Paul is about 5 million people, and it's the other half of the state is outstate. I mean, it's 11 million people in Minnesota, but it has been a Democrat trifecta for probably the last 6 or 7 years, at least that much. And when Walsh was first sworn into office, the people who run the books in this state announced that we had an $18 billion surplus. Taxpayers had paid $18 billion more than the government had needed to balance their budget. Somehow Timmy spent it. And and at first he promised, he says, well, I think we'll give each taxpayer $2,000. And then it was $1,000. And then it was $600. And then it was $300. We did get $300. And it just like, but that's a pittance compared to, but the 18 billion is gone now. And I don't know if he's complicit in this fraud or not, but somebody is. And somebody is guilty of something. So it's not because he has Somali relatives, and it's not because he has a fake daycare center in his backyard. It's because of the donors, and they're getting him out of the race because it's making Democrats look bad.
I mean, it's about votes.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be about ultimately about votes. It's got to be about campaign donations.
Yep.
Who knows who and how many people have skimmed off money from this thing? And
yep.
I mean, this report about some years ago. This was even before. This was before Trump. This was some years ago, where there were Somali agents going through the airport with suitcases of cash.
Yes. Right.
And they were allowed to go through, right?
I don't understand that. I don't get that at all. But there's an outfit in Minnesota called Alpha News, and they are an outstanding news organization. Very, very good, very top-notch people. And they did a report. The Liz Collins is one of their reporters. She did an interview with a former TSA agent who said that she was in the TSA station a number of years. She worked at TSA for about 6 or 7 years. And she said at one time it was every week that at least one pair of Somali guys would come through with a suitcase full of cash, and they'd get stopped, and they'd run their bag through the conveyor belt, and then they'd be taken to a separate room, and the TSA agent would call a local police or a local federal officer and tell them what they had, because they opened the case and they saw the money and it was there. I don't know if it was wrinkled 20s or all Benjamins. And the guy would come over and he would make a phone call and he would say, okay, it's authorized, let him go. And they'd keep on going. I don't understand it either. I don't get it. But that happened over and over and over again. Yeah, there's has to be. I mean, nobody operates that way. Nobody would. That wouldn't make any sense to anybody.
No.
That why would you? I mean, back in the olden days, they would take gold bullion and stamped in coins, and then, like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, they would go down to the city, pick up bags of gold to pay their workers, and then they'd truck it back up to the mines to pay the workers. But you don't spend that kind of cash to pay workers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And workers where? In Somalia?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody's worth that kind of money.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, it makes absolutely no sense.
No, that is crazy. But you're exactly right. It is about money and votes. I mean, the donors got jazz hands to bow out to drop out. And I had read to where the Somali, there's only about 100,000 Somalis in Minnesota from what I had read, but they vote as a block. They all vote together. So if you're sitting here and looking at, if you're going to get, if you're going to get 600,000 or 1 million votes, and you can just peel off, for a general election, and you can peel off 10% of that just on one block.
Yeah.
Then that's what you're going to do. And your statement about Minneapolis is exactly correct. I was up in Minneapolis on business about 2.5 months ago, and I had just an evening kind of free, and so I went to the Mall of America, and I was a drastic minority, and that Minneapolis, that Bloomington area, has radically changed in its demographics within the last, I guess I worked for I worked for a company up there in Eagan, Minnesota for 8 years, and I would always go and I would run around Lake Nokomis and Lake Calhoun and Lake Harriet, and there is no chance that I would go up into that area now. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't make any sense. It was another story that I picked up today, and I'm not sure how I got onto their website or their newscast, but I'm getting a news bulletin or a little newsletter from what used to be the Minneapolis Star. Now it's called the Minnesota Star, and they did a little tiny capsulization of daycare centers being visited, and they said in their story that of the 10 daycares identified by Nick Shirley, or 10 of the ones identified by Nick Shirley, the Minnesota agencies went out to visit 10 of them, and they found children at each of the agencies, or each of the child care centers. And they said in the story, we sent out reporters to the same 10, and we only found children in 4 of them. Well, the reason behind that is that if you're a state agency, you're going to go out and visit someone, you got to call ahead of time and make an announcement. We're coming over to. I mean, they've got all kinds of rules, and by golly, look at there, they found some kids. Well, what do you know? Now, Nick Shirley, the guy who was doing all the videos that everybody in the world has seen, found no kids. I mean, he didn't announce. He didn't say anything of where he was going or who he was going to talk to. The fraud is incredibly deep.
Yeah.
And it's 80,000 to 100,000 Somalis, and they all vote together. Absolutely.
Well, did you see the one? I saw this today, and I don't know whether this was a prank that was from a clever Republican or conservative, which is a possibility, or if this was legit. But there was a Craigslist ad that was posted asking for Somali children actors to apply and to show up, to where then they could bus them to these daycare centers for whenever they do these inspections. There'll actually be some kids there.
Right.
I'm like,
yeah. No,
really?
Good. That's cute. I mean,
yes.
And it's
probably government funded. Probably.
It's hard to say. I didn't see the ad, but it doesn't surprise me. And I don't know that it would be. They wouldn't be that out in the open. They wouldn't be that blatant.
Right.
They wouldn't let the world see what they're actually doing.
I wouldn't think if it was just a joke, a prank that was played on him. Brilliant prank.
It's clever, very clever. Yeah.
All right. David, anything else? We got to move on to Brett here.
I think that's a great plenty.
Okay. Thank you, David.
Oh yeah. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
Okay, Brett, you got 15 seconds.
15 seconds. Okay, real fast. Okay. No. what I've been thinking about and really is just the transformation in New York City. It's been a liberal cesspool for decades, for the most part, with a few brief breaks in there. But what's really gone off the rails with Mamdani, and I was trying to put this out of my head a little bit because it's just so darn disturbing. But whenever the Empire State Building and One World Trade Center was ordered to be lit up in Islamic green.
Now, I understand the governor ordered that.
The governor ordered that.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw that and I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, we're 25 years from 3,000 Americans being killed by this exact ideology. And there is a difference between, some people get in an argument with me about this. There is a difference between a Muslim and Islamist. Not every Muslim is an Islamist, but every Islamist is a Muslim. And it's Islam is what the real problem is. And for all these groups, especially these liberal groups that are wanting to celebrate diversity and individuality and all this, that there is the one religion that celebrates the least amount of diversity is Islam.
Now Debbie, don't take too much away from what Debbie's going to be.
So much to cover that.
I will not. So let me get to Mamdani. Okay. When I was looking through here pre-election to see exactly who supports Mamdani, because I'm thinking, like, how in the world is this even possible? And the way that it broke down in the polls were, quote unquote, whatever this is, rich white liberals. I don't know I know what a white liberal is. I don't know what a rich white liberal. I don't know what the threshold was, but he had garnered about 60% of the rich white liberal vote. Many of those were women. I think there were more women that supported him than men. Yeah. Blacks and Latinos, I thought this was interesting. Blacks and Latinos, 14%.
Really?
Very.
Wow.
College educated under 45, which is a major problem demographic right now. 78% support.
Is that right?
Native born Americans, 31%. Native born Americans. Foreign born New Yorkers, 62%. So that's where his voter base was. But the one thing that I could not believe this, because it was 37 points too high. The Jewish vote, 37% of Jews in New York City supported Mamdani.
What was the percentage again? Jews?
37%. 37 points too high.
How could that? Yeah.
You have a mayoral candidate and now a mayor of New York who openly calls for the boycott, divestment, and sanction movement against Israel that basically just wants to economically ostracize the Jewish state, and a candidate, now mayor, who openly calls for a global intifada. Yeah. Basically, if people do not convert to Islam, then by the Quran, they're eligible to be killed. They should be killed. That's what the charge is. Incidentally, he took his oath of office on a Quran.
On a Quran, I know.
Not on a Bible. And for the bonus round, the person who actually administered the oath of office was the Marxist Bernie Sanders.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So this is just pretty much about the absolutely most anti-American, anti-Western civilization day that you could possibly have, and grouping. But some of his major policies when he was campaigning, he was talking about tax the rich, whatever the rich are, rent controls on residential properties, free public transportation, government-owned grocery stores, and was looking to scale back the police and increase the use of sending social workers to respond to 911 emergency calls. That sounds like kind of a bad career path for a social worker, but that's what he wanted. And so, yeah, go ahead.
One of our other comms team members, I won't say his name, you probably know who he is, but he said if Mondami gets elected, said get your popcorn, get on the couch, sit back, and watch it crash, and it'll be quite a movie to watch. So
yeah, it'll be
yeah, there's already a movie out there that highlights exactly what you're talking about. It was a 1981 movie called Escape from New York.
Escape from New York, yep.
And it was in New York, had been ringed around with a big wall, and it had become a prison camp.
Oh.
I'm trying. Kurt Russell, I think it was.
Yep, Kurt Russell's in there. And those walls were not to keep people out; it was to keep the New Yorkers in.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Keep people.
Okay.
Just like the Berlin Wall, it was to keep the East Germans in.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
And Debbie's going to be giving us another presentation this evening on Islam, and I tell you, it's certainly getting my attention more and more. Anyway, it's a very interesting topic. Yeah, Debbie.
Yeah.
I just want to add one thing in there. One of the goals of Islam is that they are partnering with these smaller groups, ones that they've spoken against, like the Jewish people, and they are partnering with them and getting them to come on board, which is very interesting because all you got to do is read what they believe and you would be like, why would I support you? But they're getting LGBT involved with them. Well, they say right away that they shouldn't live. So it's just like people are not thinking. And I think a lot of the Jews in New York have, I'm guessing a lot of those people have divorced themselves from Israel. They are not thinking about the Judaic religion. They are maybe wealthier people. And, we've seen that before. If you just study Israel, they tend to not every one of them is faithful to God. So I think that they're believing lies and they're being deceived. And that's what happens when you turn away from God,
Yeah.
You're 100% right. I think Mark Levin talks about there's a difference between Jewish by race and Jewish by religion.
Yes.
And you have a lot of secular Jews that are for whatever reason have supported these just horrendous liberal policies, and to where really the left is turned into a full-blown anti-Semitic party. And interestingly enough, whenever Mamdani went through his speech, one of the things he was talking about, some of these interesting quotes. He talked about his heroes being Nydia Velázquez, which I think she's a New York Assemblywoman, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And then, of course, he goes in and he says, "Thank you to the man whose leadership I most seek to emulate, who I am so grateful to be sworn in by today, Senator Bernie Sanders."
Yeah.
So that's a bad thing. Interestingly enough, he said, here's a couple other quotes. He said, "Beginning today, we will govern expansively and audaciously." Interesting. How about to those who insist that the era of big government is over? Hear me when I say this. No longer will City Hall hesitate to use its power to improve New Yorkers' lives. Now, how many lives has socialism and Marxism improved?
The people in the government, probably.
The socialists and the Marxists in the political class, and that's just about it.
Well, what did he say about no longer individual rugged individual ruggedism. What am I trying to say?
Rugged individualism. Now they're going to he's going to lean towards the warmth of collectivism.
Collectivism.
Yes. Because if there's anything that the results of collectivism and communism and Marxism is known for, it's warmth. Actually, probably people looking for warmth because they have no warmth, they have no heat, they have no food.
And I think that's been determined as an exact quote from Stalin and some other people from the past.
Oh, there's no doubt about that whatsoever. That wouldn't surprise me. He's already gone back on his free public transportation because bus fares just increased in his his second day of office. So bus fares have gone up, and he one of the other things, and this is something very troubling to the Jewish population. Pardon me. The Jewish population is that the Eric Adams had signed on to the definition of anti-Semitism that was published by I think the International Holocaust Museum,
Right.
I believe is what it was. Well, he's rescinded that already. He's rescinded that definition, and here's just give you a quick little flavor. His first executive order reestablishes the mayor's office to protect tenants, which, quote, will serve as a central coordinating body to defend tenants' rights, stand up to landlords, and ensure city agencies act swiftly on behalf of renters facing unsafe or illegal conditions. Well, that is the definition of rent-controlled properties. That's what that is. And his Sia Weaver is going to run his office to protect tenants. And she has actually said that, hey, you know what, we're going to change these private property rights, and it's really going to mostly hurt white people. And, they just need to get rid of it. And they need to get ready for that. And she has actually called for the city to force private landlords out of business so it can seize their buildings.
Yeah.
So
this is it's already starting.
100%.
Property owner would be a big problem. All right, guys, we're out of time for this segment. I want to thank you all very much. Very, very interesting topics. So I've always enjoyed this segment. We'll certainly continue doing this in 2026. So it's been very, very good. Thank you very much. And Debbie, don't go too far away because we're going to bring you right back here. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. All right, folks, that's our In Focus segment. Like I said, I really enjoy this segment because we talk about very, very different topics. And as you can see, the topics were, the variety was there. So it's been a very, very interesting, again, another very interesting segment this evening. Well, I want to bring Debbie Stewart back on to give our first presentation this evening. And Debbie's going to be talking about Islam in America, Part 2. She did Part 1, and we just thought it was so good that I asked her, could you do a Part 2? And she said she certainly could. So let's bring Debbie back on.
Hi again.
How are you? I haven't seen you in a long time.
Forever.
Well, Debbie, like I said, your Part 1 was so interesting on Islam in America, and I suspected that there was more to be talked about. So I asked you to do a Part 2. So take it away.
Sure. All right. Well, I wanted to make a comment too, because there's a lot of talk about New York and Mamdani.
Right.
And do you think it's an accident that the Muslim religion picked the capitalism capital of the world with a Muslim mayor and to implement socialism in the Big Apple being the capitalistic capital
Yeah.
of the world. I
Yeah.
think we're in your face. We are not only coming in here to take over, because remember step 3 of the phases, I'll go over those again, but phase 3 is infiltration.
Yep.
We're
Yep.
coming there, but we're not only that, but we're going to knock down your economic system too. We're going to implement socialism.
So, and what a big accomplishment this is, huh?
Well, and that's just it. Like, Muslims typically aren't socialists. Like, so this is not he just happens to be a socialist, and he just happened to pick New York. No, this is part of their 100-year plan. They are taking beachheads, and we're going to talk about this with what's going on in London or in England. But there are 10 major cities there. Like you said, oh yeah, we're just going to sit back with our popcorn. Well, that would be great. But right now they have 10 mayors in 10 major cities. They each have a Muslim mayor. It's not going down. It's going up. They are multiplying. They are spreading out from the tip of Africa, all the way up into Europe and stuff now. So this is a calculated move on their part. They are not there to try something out. They are going to implement their jihad.
Yeah.
And on the video last time, we said it was bullet or ballot is what that man said in the video. Bullet or ballot, meaning that, our new jihad now is we're going to run for office, and we're going to keep moving on that five-phase method. So, but let's go ahead and, okay, so there is a 100-year plan. We're about halfway, 40 to 50 years into that 100 plan. Now, I've heard both, but we're somewhere in the middle of that plan. They want to completely take over America and institute Sharia law. There will be no more constitution. There will be no more our laws. It will be their laws. And just because Saudi Arabia right now is 100% Sharia law. And let me ask you, if you go over to Saudi Arabia, do you think that they care what your laws are? No. But over here, it's very interesting how we're allowing them. But what they're doing is they're using our Constitution to implement their things. They're saying, like in Texas, we'll get into this in a little bit. They're saying, well, hey, fair housing. Why can't we have our 400-acre community with just Muslims in there?
Yeah.
So then they're suing, or they're coming against legislatively, or by suing and saying you can't do that. So, but we want to show that Charlie Kirk video, don't we?
Yep. You ready to go on it? Ready to go?
Let's hit it.
Warning about Islam coming to topple the Western world.
The spiritual battle is coming to the West, and the enemies are wokeism or Marxism combining with Islamism to go after what we call the American way of life. And the American way of life is very simple. I want to be able to get married, buy a home, have kids, allow them to ride their bike till the sun goes down, send them to a good school, have a low crime neighborhood, not to have my kid be taught the lesbian, gay, transgender garbage in their school, while also not having them have to hear the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day. That's important. We want the American way of life, which is, by the way, Christendom. Christians, our sacrifice, our toil, our vision, the outgrowth of the scriptures gave us Western civilization. And this is where I think is a great rallying cry. Doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, doesn't matter if you're Asian, doesn't matter if you're black or white. Everybody, if you are Christian and Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, these two threats are combining forces to come after us. And it's time that the church stands and rises up against it.
Yep. Comment down below if you believe Charlie was telling the truth.
Yeah. So I think that there is this lie out there that says, we're really not a Christian nation. But what we need to realize is the documents that we have, the Declaration, the Constitution, the preamble, all of our amendments, our Bill of Rights. If you go through those documents, they are all, you can find hundreds of scriptures out of the Holy Bible that's what they based a lot of that on when they wrote the 7 articles.
There's no doubt about that. The Bible was a very strong influence on the creation of this founding of our
I mean, the
country.
3 branches of government come right from the Bible.
That's right. That's right.
So a lot of people don't realize that was the foundation. And that's why we have the oldest constitution in the world right now. The average age of a constitution is 17 years.
Yes.
Ours is in like 234, somewhere in there. We're in the 230s. And so there's a reason for that. So, okay. So any comments on the video at all, Dale?
Well, I thought that was very good. It's just, yeah, it was right to the point, right to the point. Charlie Kirk, he knew how to do that, didn't he?
Yeah, he absolutely did.
Yep.
So, well, we're going to talk a little about an example. Last time I was on, I gave you some statistics, but now we're going to talk about something called Epic City. And this is a 400-acre Muslim community they're trying to build in Texas. It's been controversial. Governor Abbott's jumped in on it. But basically, it's initiated by the East Plano Islamic Center. And it's right outside of Dallas in Josephine, Texas. And it would feature 100 residential units. It would have a mosque, a school, a K-12 school, community college, and commercial shopping and stuff like that. And this, this is East Plano Islamic Center would get all the proceeds from this community. So it would give them a bunch of money then to do what they want to do. So whatever that would be. If they're tied in with the Muslim Brotherhood, we know the Muslim Brotherhood is the one that wants to expand Islam all over the world. That is their goal. So we talked about Minneapolis, them using money for terrorist groups. Well, a lot of the money that's going to go from these organizations could do that too. They also want to have 2 ranches. One, they'd just be like a couple miles away, but one would be Ranch 1 and Ranch 2, and they would have bigger lots, smaller lots, things like that. But they want to do this huge all Muslim community. So very interesting, right outside Dallas. So the city kind of came against them and said, you shouldn't be doing this. This isn't lining up. And they came back and said, well, hey, fair housing, right? We're not saying you have to be a Muslim here. We want to coexist with you. And so now there's still some issues going on. They renamed it the Meadows because Epic City, I think, was too strong of a name, and they decided to back off that a little bit. But this is interesting. The developers stated they would not impose blanket bans on any group of people, but would conduct thorough individualized assessments of prospective buyers to assure alignment with community goals of safety and security. So basically they're saying it's all fair housing, but they're going to interview you based on what you believe.
Yeah.
And they even come down there and say that later on, they said that they would, I'm looking for the exact words here. Sorry about this, but yeah, it says we will limit sales to people we believe will contribute to the overall makeup of our community. That means they want you to be Islamic. I mean, just come on. And then they changed that on their website, and so there's all this maneuvering going on. I don't know what the state of this thing is right now, where we're at, but there's been a lot of back and forth. I can't seem to find anything as of today, as in January, exactly where the is the development moving forward? Is it not? Things like that.
Debbie, I got a couple comments from a viewer here that I want to throw up.
Sure.
It's not about the Texas thing, but I thought it was a good comment. The Muslim plan to conquer the West is the single most important issue facing Western culture. And I think that's very, very true. But here's another one that he says, and I hadn't thought about this, but Islam has become a political party.
Interesting.
That's an interesting thought, isn't it?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the first comment. And I wish, my prayer is that more people are going to wake up, because if we don't do something soon, they're going to get so far into their plan, it's going to be too late.
Yeah.
And as far as becoming a political party, well, I mean, I can see why they would say that.
Yeah, I think it.
And they are winning, and they are running for offices, left and right, wherever they can.
Yeah.
And so just a review from last time, we mentioned some cities: Minneapolis, Dearborn, London. I mentioned to you that now 10 major cities in London have Muslim mayors. And just real quick on New York, I know Brett, this is Brett's thing. He did swear in on the Quran, but he's saying he's going to give free childcare from a 6-week-old to a 5-year-old. So basically for almost 5 years, you get free childcare. That's what he's promising. And he's saying his goal is that the minimum wage would be at $30 by 2030. So
I haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah. So think about that. Nobody's like right now, everybody's talking about the prices are high, like when you go to the grocery store, right? But nobody's talking about how, they bought the minimum wage up quite a bit. A lot of people are paying $15 minimum wage now, even though it's not the law, the state law. If you go to Chick-fil-A, you're making close to $15 an hour now as an entry-level employee. So what does that do to the cost of everything?
Well, they gotta get that money from somewhere, so they raise the prices.
So you go to a restaurant, right? And now they ask for tips, even when you just get a delivery item, or you walk up to the counter and order it and you pick it up, but it asks you for a tip. So they're trying to pay their employees more, but it's coming out of our pockets, right?
Yep.
So anyways, that's what's going on. And I said, this is not an accident that they picked New York. So, okay. So let's review those 5 phases really quick. I know we talked about them last time. And the first phase is called incubation. And that's where they move here and they're like quiet and they're good citizens, and stuff like that. Then they want to be recognized that, hey, Sharia law, we want to apply it, but only in our community. We would never ask anybody outside our community to obey Sharia law. And by the way, we are a religion of peace, and they'll say that. And it's not a threat to your nation because we would never try to institute Sharia law outside our little community. Okay, so that's the second phase. The third is infiltration. That's what we see going on right now. Minneapolis, Dearborn, New York. These people, who swears in on the Quran? I mean, is that bothering anybody?
Wasn't there a representative or a senator or somebody that took their oath on the Quran? Maybe it was.
It could have been.
It seems like I remember that happening.
Yeah, and so, but is anybody up in arms about that at all? I don't hear anything about that. Do you know what the Quran says? It says if you're an infidel, you deserve death. That would be all of us because we're not Muslim. So, it's just interesting. And then during that infiltration where they get into all your offices and they start running for leadership positions, they say, oh, you're just an Islamophobic. So they accuse anybody who wants to single out an Islamic person. They call them phobic. So then everybody's real quiet now. We don't want to say anything, do we? Because we don't want to be considered phobic about Islam. Then there's confrontation. They start incorporating legal system elements of Sharia law into the country, to the host country. And then last is imposition, where they become the majority and they gain control of a region or a country. And then they lock down with Islamic Sharia law and then nothing else. So you can't have the gospel. You can't talk about Jesus, just like in Saudi Arabia. That's the way it is. So that's just a review of those 5 phases. And then let's show that second video. That's Marco Rubio, right?
Right.
Radical Islamic movements in the world identify the West writ large, but the United States in particular, as the greatest evil on the earth. And every chance they have, the notion that somehow radical Islam would be comfortable with simply controlling some province in Iraq or Syria is just not borne out by history. Radical Islam has shown that their desire is not simply to occupy one part of the world and be happy with their own little caliphate. They want to expand. It's revolutionary in its nature. It seeks to expand and control more territories and more people. And radical Islam has designs openly on the West. On the United States, on Europe, we've seen that progress there as well. And they are prepared to conduct acts of terrorism. In the case of Iran, nation-state actions, assassinations, murders, you name it, whatever it takes for them to gain their influence and ultimately their domination of different cultures and societies. That's a clear and imminent threat to the world and to the broader West. but especially to the United States, who they identify as the chief source of evil on the planet. Okay, the reason why they hate the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the leadership of the UAE, of Bahrain, is because they've allowed the United States to partner with them. That's why they hate them. They consider them infidels for it. They hate Israel. But they also hate America, and they hate anywhere in the world that we have influence. They seek to attack it, including here in the homeland. If you look at the domestic terrorists, at the attacks that have happened here domestically, the overwhelming majority of them have been inspired by radical Islamic viewpoints. And that includes the shooting in the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida. That includes the Saudi pilot in Pensacola, my home state, 2 attacks.
Okay. One thing I like about Marco Rubio, I mean, he's a really serious guy, but he tells it like it is.
I really like him. I really do. I'm liking him more and more, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I think he knows his stuff, and I think he presents his point of view very well.
Yeah. So he talks about a caliphate. That's the system of Islamic rule. They want to have a global caliphate, 100% of the planet. That is their goal. It's world domination. So that system of government would replace every form of human existence, our political, economic, religious, everything. And that is their goal. So the caliphate, that when Islam gets to a certain percentage in a country, that's when they can form a caliphate. And that's what they're waiting for right now. Okay. They're already taking place all over the globe, and they're spreading. So
what percentage is that? Do you have any idea?
Of how many people are Muslim?
I mean, what you said, it has, when it gets to a certain percentage.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a number, or because first they take over cities.
Okay.
And then when they get a minority, what they consider a minority of a host nation, like America, then
Okay.
that's when they will implement the caliphate, and that becomes where they take over.
Okay.
So for right now, they're just getting beachheads in Minneapolis, and they want this 400-acre place in Texas, and they're getting, they're running for a representative and Senate and governors and mayors and things like that, right?
Okay. All
But
right.
when they get enough of those together, they consider it a minority. They have a minority of the host nation. I don't know if it's a number or a feeling or whatever that would be. I'm not
Okay.
really sure. That's a great question.
All right.
Okay. And then that's when only Muslims rise to the top in leadership at that point too. So what can we do about this? Let's talk a little bit about what we can do. First, we need to really understand we are in a dangerous war. If the Muslim goal is total world domination and Sharia law, that ought to concern us. And there are a lot of Muslims that are great people. I don't want to confuse being a Muslim, like he said, with a radical Islamic person. But the issue is once the radical Islamic gets to a certain point, all those other Muslims are going to come in underneath that because they have to, or there will be retribution. So, let's see. Now, is Brett coming in behind me? Is somebody coming in behind me, Dale?
Yes, Brett will be.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so this is just a real quick example of Islamic education. There's a school. Let's see if I can find. Here it is. In Florida, there's an educator. She's a daughter and a granddaughter of the senior Muslim Brotherhood leaders. Now, remember, the Muslim Brotherhood is in charge of expanding Islam. That is their goal, to take over. Okay, so they kind of head that up. Her name is Magda El-Qadi Salah. She's a principal and heir to the Muslim Brotherhood. She has all these Islamic things that she does. I'm not going to go through all the organizations, but basically she is doing what they call civilization jihad, where she has been allowed to operate, expand, and embed her brotherhood aligned institutions with full cooperation of the legislators in Florida, which is interesting. These Florida legislators aided and abetted her network, directed taxpayer money into her schools, publicly celebrated her, and granted her legitimacy that she couldn't have gotten on her own. So she's the principal of Bayan Academy, which is a Islamic religious school. And she's also, she's on the Council of Islamic Schools. She's got a lot of other titles, but she is furthering the Muslim Brotherhood goals, and we are allowing her to, even though her alias is she's the principal of this school. But in that position, she's doing a lot of the Muslim Brotherhood work. But she's behind that principal role. And that's what her goal is, to reshape Western society through education, youth, and institutions. So that is the civilization jihad. Okay.
All right.
So anyways, the Sharia law is completely incompatible with our Constitution. So why are we allowing it? That's such a great question. I'm not going to talk about Minnesota because I wouldn't want to take that away from somebody, everything that's going on there that was part of it, because the Somalians are 99% Muslim. So, all right. So my last thing is, how do we stop Islam? That's really the question. First, we have to wake up, but we have to stop believing what Muslims tell us about Islam, because they're telling us it's a peaceful religion. It is not. Reject the unwarranted accusations of Islamophobia. No, we're not. If somebody comes in and says they're going to take over your home and take your kids in captivity, are you going to allow that to, a name to stop you from defending yourself? No. Okay. And then the third thing they suggest is close or block jihadist websites and videos and things like that are promoting all this terrorism. They try to recruit right from within our country, right? Number 4, stop the army of young Muslim men flooding into the West. Well, we've done that with Trump, but we had a lot of Muslim refugees come into our country in the last 4 years. It's also, if we're letting imams come into our public schools, that's when they come in and they say things like, we want to do Muslim call to prayer in a school or something. They start asking for things like that. We need to outlaw Sharia law, and some states have, like Texas says it's outlawed. I think the biggest thing is when Christianity becomes strong enough and real Christians stand up for what they believe in, then I think that there will be a less willingness to allow the Islamic principles.
Well, I think it's gonna be a challenge, because you try to stand up to any of this stuff, and you're a racist. You're called all sorts of names.
Well, and I think we have to recognize that this is not flesh and blood. This is a principality. These are principalities of darkness we're dealing with here. This is a spiritual battle.
Right.
So yes, there is time to legislate and do things in the natural, but prayer and just coming against this evil force. Anything that wants to take over and control you is not a good thing. I mean, the gospel is a beautiful thing, but God never forces it on anybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I think that we just need to be willing to, and we need to pray for Muslims. Ask God to open their eyes to what is it they're believing in. I know some awesome people who are Muslim, and I'm like, I don't understand how that really sweet person can believe what the Quran says.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think it's just deception.
Yeah. All right.
That's all I got, Dale.
Okay. Well, Debbie, I got one more comment here. I'm going to go ahead and show it from David Todd. Shalom from Greenfield, praying for the shalom of Jerusalem, Israel, and all the surrounding lands.
That's awesome. David Todd.
Yeah.
Yes. Peace of Jerusalem. I love that.
I thought that would be a good closing comment.
Yes. And he's from Greenfield. That's cool.
Well, Debbie, thank you very much.
You bet.
I was going, I told you Brett was going to follow you, but evidently I just got a message and he had to leave.
Oh my goodness. He probably thought the show would be done by 8.
He probably did. Yes.
Is that the normal close time we're doing?
No. We've been going 90 minutes plus.
Oh,
I think, anyway, I think Brett was confused on being part of the In Focus segment as well as doing the other.
Because I could have went second. I wouldn't have minded to let him go before me.
Well, I should have. Anyway, I guess I bear some of this responsibility, but
it's okay.
We'll drag him back in here again another time. So
yeah, because I'd love to hear the thing on socialism.
Yeah. All right, Debbie. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dale.
As usual. Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye. All right, folks. Well, as you heard me just talk about with Debbie, our next presenter was supposed to be Brett Sterling, but he had to move on. So we'll get him back another day. What I would like to play for you now is another piece on Dave's Daily Dose. This is something that we try to do every week, and these are audio recordings from David Punt, who was part of our In Focus group tonight out of Minnesota. So let me play our Dave's Daily Dose, and this is entitled Friends of Somalis. Okay? I think you're going to enjoy it.
If you don't think the Somali population has serious political clout, you're not paying attention. Independent journalist Nick Shirley recently spent some time visiting sites in Minneapolis listed by state government documents as receiving money for childcare, but he didn't find a lot of kids. Same thing happened to Chris Sims in Washington State, and there the state attorney general held a press conference warning independent journalists that they could be charged with a hate crime if they showed up on someone's porch threatening or harassing. He called it unsafe and potentially dangerous behavior. Don't they have the First Amendment in Washington State? Or maybe the profs didn't cover that where Brown went to school. This is Dave's Daily Dose on BrokenRoadRadio.com. I'm David Allen Punt. The list of public officials in Minnesota who want everybody to know that the Somali community is chock full of honest, upstanding folks continues to grow and grow and grow. Timmy Walz and Mayor Fry are just some of the latest. Our Attorney General even went to a meeting a while back to reassure some of the folks wrapped up in scandal that the government was on their side and the money would keep flowing. St. Paul TV station KSTP reporter Jay Coles visited a child care tax dollar recipient twice over the course of last year. The place he went to was locked tight, no kids in sight. The head of a government agency later announced that the place had been inspected within the last 6 months and there were lots of kids around. So Jay went back. No kids. Doors locked. Nobody home. Last night, one of the companies about to be inspected reported that they had a break-in and somebody stole their files. Which ones? Well, applications from kiddos for childcare and probably some financial records as well. The company held a press conference to announce the break-in. Half the folks there were holding racism-related signs. You have to be racist to break into a place and steal records, you know. One of the places identified in Nick Shirley's video as empty, nary a kid in sight, now says they notified the state in December that it was going to close. But yesterday, somebody changed someone's mind and a whole line of kiddos showed up. I wonder if they stayed for a while. There's lots of smoke here, maybe some fire. Governor Timmy will get a chance to explain it away in Washington, D.C. at a House Oversight Committee soon. Maybe just before Monica Bill and Benghazi Hill make their appearances. I'm David Allen Punt.
All right, Dave's Daily Dose. That's from David Punt out of Minnesota. So we always enjoy his contributions, and we'll get one from him every week that we like to include. Well, I want to give you a little something here that we like to do at least once a month. You hear us talk about the COS perspective, which is what we are trying to oversee our program. In other words, our program is built around the COS perspective. And we like to think that through this perspective, we're addressing today's issues through the COS perspective. And so to be clear on this and for all of you to understand what the COS perspective is, at least once a month, I like to play this video that I put together on what exactly the COS perspective is based upon, so that you understand what it's about when we say we're using the COS perspective. So let me play this video and I'll be right back. Greetings, everyone. My goal here today is to explain to you just what we mean by the COS perspective. The COS perspective is comprised of two parts. The first part has to do with the pillars of our resolution. There are three pillars. The first one is to impose fiscal restraints on the federal government. That means to control spending through constitutional amendments. The second pillar is to limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government. In other words, to restore states' rights. And the third pillar of our resolution has to do with term limits. Now, that's imposing term limits on Congress as well as other federal officials. So those are the three pillars of the resolution, and that's the first part of the COS perspective. The second part of the COS perspective deals with our core values of Convention of States. The first one being to preserve the constitutional originalism. In other words, follow the Constitution based on its original meaning. Number two, to foster responsible self-governance. This means to take responsibility and get involved in your local community and government. Third is to cultivate servant leaders. Promote leaders to serve the people, not to serve themselves. And next, be kind. In other words, be civil and respectful in all of our interactions. Next, produce meaningful results. And that's impactful, real results, not just symbolic actions. And finally is to revere Judeo-Christian values and understand the role that fundamental values play in our American heritage. So that's the other part of the COS perspective. Finally, our mission here on COS today then is to address today's issues from the Convention of States perspective. Thank you. Have a good day. Well, I hope that helps you understand what the COS perspective is. I just noticed that there's probably one little tidbit that I left out of that video, and that is for those of you that are not part of COS, what is the resolution? The resolution is what we are attempting and trying to get 34 states to sign on to, calling for a convention of states. We need to get 2/3 of the states to sign that resolution, and that means 34 states needed to call the Convention of States for the purpose of proposing amendments. So that's what the resolution is all about, and the resolution is comprised of the three pillars that I mentioned in that video. So hopefully that'll give you a little idea what we mean by the COS perspective. Well, let me wrap up here real quick this evening, and we'll sign off for this evening. I just wanted to mention also that if you're looking for our program, if you're doing a search and looking for COS today, the easiest way to find us is to go to our YouTube channel, American Patriots for Convention of States. American Patriots for Convention of States. So don't search on COS today. Search and go to our YouTube channel, American Patriots for Convention of States. And I also want to mention that if you have any comments or questions about our broadcast this evening, drop us an email at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. Well, folks, that's it for this evening. I'm sorry one of our presenters it was a miscommunication with him. Sorry about that. And I'll get Brett on here again to talk about socialism. He was going to talk about socialism / communism. So it would have been very, very good, I'm sure. But anyway, we'll get Brett on another time. So with that, folks, I'm going to sign off for this evening, and I look forward to seeing you again on next week on the 12th of January. So same time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So everyone have a good evening, and let's let Marengo Mike close us out this evening.
Marengo Mike here with a reminder that our work to raise the bar on making our federal government accountable to the people is only halfway done. We need to grow our grassroots army of citizens every day to fulfill the vision of our forefathers and keep our land free and prosperous. So, if you have never signed the petition to show your support, use that QR code and do that now. While you're there, why not kick it up a notch and volunteer for many of the positions available where your talents can make a difference as we march into a new year. Thank you, and God bless.